flown 121, flying 135 and 91 now. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I've seen the good, bad, and ugly. There's great to every single aspect of being a professional pilot. The big ones I can think of right off the top of my head right now: 121, the union. These, I know we were giving them a little bit of grief earlier, but these old timers, the guys that have come before us, I said earlier, the guys that walk so we could run. I don't want to gloss over what they have done for us. The ALPA guys have got us taken care of on the 121 level. I'm talking 401k, dental, vision. You're not going to get overworked. You're going to be staying in nice hotels. You're going to have somebody picking you up on time, most of the time on time, to take you to the airport. You do not lift a finger at the 121 level. You show up and you have your flight plan sitting there waiting on you. Now you work hard. There's no doubt about that. You have to deal with things that other guys don't have to deal with, but that is the positive to 121, I think. The ALPA guys have really got it squared away for the most part. Now, there's good and bad to everything, right? And I don't want to just sit here and gas them up left and right because, I mean, there's always some things here that you need to call them on and do all that. But for the most part, they do have your best interest at heart, I think. So that's really what I enjoyed about my time at 121. Moving into the part 135 and 91 side of things, quite a bit more hands-on. We're filing our flight plans. We're telling the fueler how much fuel we need. We're really, everybody's looking at the weather, but you're really looking at the weather because you got to pick your own alternate. You got to do this. You got to know, okay, that's a 5,200 foot strip. Can we take it in there? The APG numbers say we can, but there's also kind of a pride that comes with that. That's your shit. You are the dispatcher. All this, all that. You really gotta work on getting your 401k where you want it because unlike the 121 side of things, they're not putting near as much in. So you're really looking hard at that. You're really pinching things here to squeeze them there. Nothing that we do is unsafe. Obviously, we still abide by the Part 135 chapter of the FAR-Ain.
That's a good point. Yeah. So for those that don't know, APG is like the private version of AWIP. That's how you get your numbers. It runs all the calculations for you. So there are a lot of differences, like Connor said. You file your own flight plans. If something breaks, you have to coordinate maintenance. You don't just, at the airlines, you just pick up the phone, call your dispatcher. They call maintenance. Sometimes you have to talk to them. And then you just write it in the book and wait for maintenance to deal with it. And then you don't have to do anything else. In the corporate world, you have to call maintenance and find a AOG guy, come out there, find a company that's available. You have to develop that Rolodex of contacts. The biggest difference I noticed is the life on the road between the two, which is the one to highlight. The big difference, I spent a lot of time in that world, and I never came home, even after 7 or 10 days on the road, I never came home feeling as wiped out as I do at an airline after a 4-day trip. What I realized is a couple things. In the airlines, depending on who you fly for, you're flying anywhere from, 1 to 4 legs a day, averaging 2 to 4 legs a day. You're putting, let's say, 4 to 7 hours in the air a day. In the corporate world, it wasn't like that. At least in the jets and props I was flying, you're maybe putting a couple hours a day of airtime in, 3.5 at a long day. 4 is really pushing it. Your cabins also sit a little bit lower in the corporate world. The pressurization's a little better in that sense. So you're not sitting up at, I think in the bus, what do we top out? 7,800
6,000. What I looked at it last night, I think it's like 6,000 feet is averaging around the 30s. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
In the low 30s, you sit around 6,600-ish. If you get in the upper 30s, it's above 7,000 feet. And so that 1,000-foot difference is dramatic on drier air and wearing you out all day long.
Oh,
You're still up there for hours at a time, whereas when I was flying the Phenom, at 450, we topped out at, I think it was 6,200 feet in the cabin. And if you're sitting down in the 30s, you're in 5,000-ish feet altitude, which is like where I live in Utah. So it's like, it was no big difference, but you're flying a lot more in the airline world. You're in the air a lot more. And then you're just sitting around all day in the airplane. Whereas in the corporate world, you can hang out in the FBO, which is a lot nicer. It's like being in a private lounge in a sense. You've got food and drinks and TV and a place to relax. You're not sitting in a busy terminal trying to hide from passengers who want to ask you the same 5 questions over and over and over again. And In the corporate world, you can get the FBO car. Most of the time, you're not in a monkey suit, or you can change real quick, get in the FBO car and go out and do something. Go get a nice meal. Go see the sights. And if you're overnighting there, you're always getting a crew car. Oh,
Yeah.
reserving a car. And 99% of the time, the FBO is after the owner leaves, the FBO is literally pulling up your rental car, opening the doors, and then taking your bags and putting them in there for you.
Exactly right.
Whereas at the airline level, if you're on a short overnight, you're hustling to the curb while you're calling the van to try to get the van there. And then you're going to this airport hotel, which is loud and noisy, and they're going to put you in a crappy room, half the time. And then you're min resting to come back and do it all over again. Corporate world, you get to choose your hotels and you get to keep your points and you get your status. And if you don't like the room, you have a lot more leverage to be like, hey, you need to give me a good room. And if they don't like it, then you just file a complaint with Marriott or Hilton. You go to another hotel because you have a car that's going to treat you better. And then you get your refund and extra points for your for your time. You don't have that at the airline level. So there are trade-offs. The trade-off with the airlines on the positive side is we know our schedules a month and a half in advance. And if we want to change them, we have, depending on your company, and the work rules, you have the ability to make your changes to try to make your kids' big events and softball games, or if you have a big, something you need a day off for, you can make that work. Like Connor said, you have a lot more, you have the union support, which has its positives, a lot of protections. You have someone to defend you if you make a mistake. At the corporate level, depending on the company you work for, majority of the time, unfortunately, at the corporate level, you make a mistake, you're the one talking to the POI or the FAA investigator. You don't have a union rep there to protect you. There's no ASAP programs except maybe NetJets and FlexJets. I'm not the NetJets and FlexJet. Not sure if they have them or not. I think they do. There's goods and bads. But I will say, like, when I worked corporate at 135 and 91, I felt a lot less stressed and a lot more relaxed on the road. And when I came home for my days off, I didn't feel like I was trying to recover. The airlines, and it could just be that with my seniority, I don't hold the better trips yet, but I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and rarely do I come home from a 3 or 4 day and not feel wiped out. So I'll at least say that. My experience might be different than many people's, but that's my perspective on the differences in the life on the road.